So we're just going to look at the final two focus extracts that we didn't get time to look at in class today. So we're looking at question 5. How does man characterize the gondolier with a sinister quality that develops the Charon motif that is reworked throughout this section? Ensure you focus on a range of different characterization methods through this. We're trying to think here about the different ways that he reveals this sort of sinister quality of the gondolier. On page 215, beginning with the lines, Aschenbach looked up with some consternation that the lagoon was widening around him. So, we're looking at the extract here. It begins from these lines. Aschenbach looked up and noticed with some consternation that the lagoon was widening around him and that the gondola was heading out to sea. It was thus evident that he must not relax too completely, but give some attention to the proper execution of his instructions. So here, obviously, the fact that he's moving out to sea gives us this kind of sense of threat, that the gondolier is not actually listening to what he's saying and is just taking him in another direction. It was thus evident he must not relax too completely, so he can't give up this sort of apolline rational component to his mind because of this potential danger that he is experiencing here. Well, to the Vaporetto, stop, he said, half turning round. The muttering ceased, but no answer came. I said to the Vaporetto, stop, he repeated, turning round completely and looking up into the face of the gondolier, who was standing behind him on the raised deck, towering between him and the pale sky. He was a man of displeasing, indeed brutal appearance. So again, he carries this sense of menace and threat and seems brutal and violent, and that creates this sort of Charon echo. Wearing blue seaman's clothes with a yellow scarf around his waist and a shapeless, already fraying straw hat tilted rakishly on his head. So again, there's this suggestion of seduction and danger in this. He's shapeless, and it's again a fraying straw hat, just like the man on the boat on the way here, and just like the man in Munich. It's tilted rakishly on his head, so it combines this with a sense of seductive flirtatiousness, as if he's being coaxed along the way to his ruin or danger. It says, to judge by the cast of his face and the blonde curling moustache under his snub nose, so again he has the feature like the man in Munich. He was quite evidently not of Italian origin, so again another outsider and other to this location in some way that gives him a sense of mystery. Although rather slightly built so that one would have not thought him particularly well suited to his job, he plied his oar with great energy. He seems to have this energetic possession that allows him to row smoothly. He puts his whole body into every stroke. Occasionally the effort made him retract his lips and bare his white teeth, and there it again echoes this man in Munich and gives him this alarming, threatening connotation. Further echoes. His reddish eyebrows were knitted, and he stared right over his passenger's head as he answered peremptorily, almost insolently, "You are going to the Lido." Aschenbach replied, "Of course, but I only engaged this gondola to row me across to San Marco. I wish to take the Vaporetto." So here there's this great sense of power and menace and force in this gondolier's movements that is deliberately echoing that kind of Charon motif, but also building into this Dionysian motif that is played out multiple times through this text and is giving us the sensation that Aschenbach is being coaxed along to his ruin and his destruction. Over the page, this is developed a little further. So we have this second extract where the gondolier is presented. It says, from the section, what was to be done, all the way down to, you will pay, signore. So, what was to be done, alone on the sea with this strangely contumacious, uncannily resolute fellow. Contumacious means stubbornly refusing to comply. The traveller could see no way of compelling him to obey his instructions. And in any case, how luxurious a rest he might have here if he simply accepted the situation. Had he not wished the trip were longer, wished it to last forever? It was wisest to let things take their course, and above all, it was very agreeable to do so. A magic spell of indolence seemed to emanate from his seat, from his low, black, upholstered armchair, so softly rocked by the oar-strokes of the high-handed gondolier behind him. The thought that he had perhaps fallen into the hands of a criminal floated dreamily across Aschenbach's mind, powerless to stir him to any active plan of self-defense. So here he seems seduced by this sense of danger, and it's a kind of spell, and it's speaking to his subconscious mind. It's as if he's floating dreamily across his mind, and he's being softly rocked into this state of unconsciousness. Furthermore, he says there was a more annoying possibility that the whole thing was simply a device for extorting money from him, a kind of pride or sense of duty, a recollection, so to speak, that there are precautions to be taken against such things. Impelled him to make one further effort. He asked, "What is your charge for the trip?" And looking straight over his head, the gondolier answered, "You will pay, signore." The prescribed retort to this was clear enough. Aschenbach answered mechanically, "I shall pay nothing, absolutely nothing, if you take me where I do not want to go. The signore wants to go to the Lido, but not with you." So again, this final line, this dialogue that the gondolier utters gives us this sense of menace here. He will pay, but with what? What money is he talking about here? He's vague about this, and the suggestion is here that he will pay with his life. There's this menacing connotation to what occurs here, that in some way he's going to be forced to, his life is going to be the price of this. And then there's a further layer of irony when Aschenbach actually comes across the shore and realizes that he's been rowed by an unlicensed gondolier, and the man on the shore says that he's had a free trip. And so the great irony here, and the ominous connotation to this, suggests that he still has to pay in some way. And that payment, obviously, is with his own life. So there's this great sense of ominous irony, I think, in this passage. And the final question concerns top of chapter 7, and it just asks how these false musicians represent false art and through satire. The musicians that arrive at the boat are presented in a way that reveals the sense of inauthenticity. He said, but nothing of the sort happened. He was even provided with company, a boat full of piratical musicians, men and women singing to the guitar or mandolin, importunately travelling hard alongside the gondola, and for the foreigner's benefit, filling the silence of the waters with mercenary song. Aschenbach threw some money into the out-held hat, whereupon they fell silent and moved off, and the gondolier's muttering became audible again. As in fits and starts, he continued his self-colloquy. So there's something inauthentic and mercenary and almost kind of thieving and piratical, pirates, in this travelling boat of musicians. But importantly here, it kind of contributes to this sense of naivety and vulnerability in Aschenbach, and gives us this sense that he is there to be taken advantage of. And some of these threats, like this one, are kind of the everyday, banal threats of being a tourist in a strange city. But he struggles to tell the difference between those banal threats and the much more menacing ones that we see throughout the story with the gondolier, the man on the boat, and all these sort of Dionysian motifs that recur in the characterization, that give us a sense that Aschenbach's destiny is in some way doomed.